Police officers were very surprised by this case. Today, we dive into a story that begins with a seemingly ordinary family gathering, but quickly spirals into a series of shocking events. This is a tale filled with deception, obsession, and heartbreak, where the truth only comes to light after a long and painful journey. Join us as we uncover the strange and unsettling story of a family torn apart by a disturbing twist. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more gripping stories like this one. On a quiet morning of August 18th, 2003, what started as a routine family gathering quickly unraveled into a chain of events no one could have foreseen. A startling reaction from Shirley Turner, unexpected and unsettling, marked the beginning of a story that would leave an indelible mark on everyone involved. This tale, filled with obsession, manipulation, and a tragic loss, would take years to reveal its full truth. Those who knew the victims were left questioning how such a series of events could ever take place. As we explore this heart-wrenching story, you'll discover that not everything is as straightforward as it might first appear. Andrew David Bagby, the central figure in this story, was born on September 25th, 1973 in the United States. He was the only child of Kathleen Daphne Bagby and David Franklin Bagby, a devoted couple who deeply loved their son. Kathleen, originally from England, was a trained nurse and midwife, while David, a U.S. citizen, had served in the Navy before transitioning to a career as a computer engineer. For years, the couple had struggled to have children and turned to fertility treatments in their pursuit of parenthood. Their efforts finally bore fruit, and the birth of Andrew brought them immeasurable joy and fulfillment. Shortly after Andrew's arrival, the Bagby family relocated to California to build a life filled with opportunities for their son. Surrounded by the warmth of an extended family living nearby, Andrew grew up in a nurturing environment that fostered his development. Even as a child, Andrew's charm and charisma stood out. He was known for his infectious smile, quick wit, and ability to make friends effortlessly. Teachers, neighbors, and family members all admired him for his kind-hearted nature and genuine personality, which made him a favorite among his peers. As Andrew moved into his teenage years, he occasionally showed signs of rebellion, a phase that worried his parents. However, Kathleen and David approached the situation with patience and compassion. Believing in open communication and understanding, they guided Andrew through this challenging time. Their unwavering support helped him regain his focus and return to being the positive and ambitious young man they had always known. These formative years strengthened the bond between Andrew and his parents, creating a relationship built on trust and mutual respect. Andrew was passionate about many things, including sports, nature, and the great outdoors. His adventurous spirit led him to join the Boy Scouts, where he excelled and earned the prestigious rank of Eagle Scout by the age of 15. This achievement reflected his dedication, discipline, and love for challenges. Alongside his outdoor pursuits, Andrew discovered an interest in acting. He enjoyed performing in films created by his childhood friend Kurt, who shared a love for filmmaking. These creative endeavors allowed Andrew to explore his artistic side while deepening friendships that would last a lifetime. Throughout his life, Andrew's vibrant personality and genuine kindness left a lasting impression on everyone he met. He was not only a loyal friend, but also a compassionate individual who brought out the best in those around him. Despite the ordinary beginnings of his story, the tragic events that would later unfold make his life a poignant reminder of the fragility of human connections. As we delve deeper into his story, we aim to honor Andrew's memory while uncovering the truth hidden beneath the surface. After finishing high school, Andrew Bagby decided to pursue a career in medicine. His mother, Kathleen, often shared inspiring stories about her experiences as a nurse and midwife in England, which fueled Andrew's interest in the medical field. However, getting into medical school was at the time of his acceptance. Andrew was in a committed relationship with Heather, a girl he had known since high school. Their connection had grown strong over the years, and they decided to take the next step by getting engaged before moving to Canada together to pursue their studies. For a while, it seemed as though everything was falling into place for the couple. However, during their first year of university, Andrew and Heather decided to end their relationship. The reasons behind their breakup were personal and never shared publicly, but it was a significant moment in Andrew's life. Despite the breakup, Andrew and Heather managed to remain friends, a testament to their mutual respect and understanding. Even so, the end of their engagement left Andrew feeling emotionally vulnerable. Being in a foreign country far from his family and lifelong friends made the situation even harder for him. Adjusting to his new environment was challenging, but Andrew's natural charm and friendly personality helped him connect with new people. Slowly, he built a support system that allowed him to regain his confidence and focus on his goals. In early 1999, during his third year at medical school, Andrew met Shirley Jane Turner, a woman who would later play a major role in his life. Shirley, who was 12 years older than Andrew, had a complex past filled with challenges. She was born on January 28, 1961, in the United States, as the youngest of four siblings. When Shirley was only 7 years old, her parents separated, and her father, who was in the U.S. military, left the family. Following the divorce, Shirley moved to Newfoundland with her mother, where she spent the majority of her childhood and teenage years. Shirley had long aspired to have a career in the medical field. In 1980, she began a chemistry course at the Memorial Hospital in Newfoundland, hoping to eventually study medicine. Around this time, she was in a relationship that led to marriage during the winter of 1981. The following year, Shirley welcomed her first child, a son, on July 9th, 1982. Despite becoming a young mother, Shirley was determined to continue her studies and work toward her goal. Her husband agreed to take on the role of a stay-at-home father to support her dreams, but Shirley eventually had to pause her academic journey due to life's demands. By 1983, Shirley had moved to Labrador, where she took up a job as a science teacher. However, her personal life remained turbulent. In 1985, she gave birth to a daughter on March 8th, adding to her responsibilities as a mother. During this time, Shirley became involved in an extramarital affair with a fisherman who had been a past romantic partner. The affair strained her marriage, which was already facing challenges. On January 29th, 1988, Shirley officially divorced her husband. Her life was marked by a series of personal struggles and shifting priorities, but she continued to strive toward her dream of a career in the medical field. Not long after her first divorce, Shirley remarried her former lover, the fisherman she had previously been involved with. Their reunion led to the birth of her third child, a daughter, in 1990. Unfortunately, their second attempt at marriage was short-lived, and by 1991, Shirley found herself raising her children alone again. Her second husband left her and their children, forcing Shirley to navigate the challenges of single parenthood. Determined to manage both her studies and her growing responsibilities, she sought custody of her children and was granted it in 1993. However, the reality of raising 3 children on her own quickly became overwhelming for Shirley. Struggling to balance her personal life and academic goals, Shirley decided to send her youngest child to live with her father, who also stepped in to assist with the care of her older children. This arrangement seemed to offer some relief, but it was not without its complications. Around this time, a man close to Shirley confided in her therapist about troubling observations he had made. He claimed to have witnessed Shirley physically and emotionally mistreating 2 of her children. Concerned for their welfare, the therapist reported these allegations to social services without delay. Social services acted quickly, and caseworkers interviewed Shirley's children to investigate the claims. During these interviews, the children admitted that their mother had punished them harshly, describing incidents where the fallout from the investigation had lasting consequences. Shirley's second ex-husband made it clear that while he would take responsibility for their youngest child, he would no longer support the 2 older children. Faced with this difficult situation, Shirley made the decision to send her older children to live with their father and paternal grandmother. While this arrangement provided stability for the children, it also allowed Shirley to focus on her studies and career ambitions. During this period, she began a romantic relationship with a younger resident at the hospital where she worked, hoping for a fresh start. Initially, the young man found Shirley to be kind, thoughtful, and generous. Their relationship started off on a positive note, but over time, it became increasingly volatile. Shirley's intense emotions and unpredictable behavior began to strain their connection. When the man decided to end the relationship in an effort to avoid further drama, Shirley did not handle the breakup well. She repeatedly contacted him, leaving disturbing messages that included threats to harm herself and others. Her actions grew more alarming as she resorted to physical confrontations in her attempts to regain his attention. One of the most unsettling incidents occurred when Shirley followed the young man to his apartment after he had been avoiding her. She arrived dressed in a black gown, carrying a bouquet of red roses, and stood at his doorstep, creating a dramatic and disturbing scene. To heighten the emotional intensity, Shirley had attached 2 handwritten notes to her clothing, indicating that she intended to take her own life. This desperate act left the young man feeling both frightened and deeply concerned, highlighting the increasingly erratic behavior that had come to define Shirley's life during this period. In a desperate and dramatic gesture, Shirley consumed a large quantity of over-the-counter medication in what appeared to be an attempt to overdose. However, it seemed calculated, as she knew help would arrive before any lasting harm occurred. The young resident, alarmed by her actions, quickly called emergency services. Shirley was rushed to the hospital and received treatment in time to recover. This event was a troubling indicator of her escalating behavior, revealing how far she was willing to go to manipulate those around her. Yet, this incident would not be the last of her concerning actions. Around the same time, in 1999, Andrew Bagby was in his 3rd year of medical school when he met Shirley. Their initial connection was casual, with neither expecting anything serious. However, Andrew's friends were immediately wary of Shirley. The age difference between the two, coupled with Shirley's questionable history, raised concerns. Those close to Andrew felt that Shirley's manipulative tendencies and inappropriate remarks created an unhealthy dynamic. They worried for Andrew, who had always been a kind-hearted and optimistic young man, surrounded by positive influences. Despite their warnings, Andrew continued to see Shirley, believing in her potential for change. In May 2000, Shirley graduated from medical school, a milestone she had been working toward for many years. Around this time, she confided in a relative about a secret she had kept since 1982. Shirley admitted that she had been withdrawing money from a scholarship fund intended for her children's future university expenses. Instead of saving it for them, she had used the money to cover her own living costs and medical education. She justified this decision by insisting that her future earnings as a doctor would allow her to repay the funds. However, her actions painted a troubling picture of her priorities and decision-making. That same year, Andrew achieved a major accomplishment in his own career, securing a surgical residency in New York City. He moved to the bustling metropolis to pursue his dream, while Shirley relocated to Iowa for her residency. The two attempted to maintain a long-distance relationship, but cracks soon began to show. Shirley claimed to have visited Andrew 7 times, while he reportedly only visited her once. This imbalance caused strain between them. Meanwhile, Andrew discovered that surgery was not the right fit for him. In the fall of 2001, he decided to switch to a family practice residency in Pennsylvania, a role that better suited his personality and aspirations. As Andrew focused on adjusting to his new residency, Shirley's behavior took a darker turn. For reasons that remain unclear, in October 2001, she obtained permission to purchase a firearm. She also began taking shooting lessons to learn how to use it. This new development surprised many, as there was no indication that Shirley had previously shown an interest in firearms. Around the same time, her possessive and controlling tendencies toward Andrew escalated significantly. She began making incessant phone calls, demanding to know where he was, what he was doing, and who he was with at all times. Andrew was deeply unsettled by Shirley's sudden possessiveness, as this side of her personality had not been as evident before. Her constant need for control and inability to respect boundaries left him feeling trapped. The relationship that had once seemed manageable now felt overwhelming and toxic. Shirley's increasing demands and erratic behavior cast a shadow over Andrew's otherwise bright future. Little did he know, these warning signs were only the beginning of a series of events that would spiral into something far more dangerous and tragic. As Shirley's desperation grew, she crossed more boundaries to regain control over Andrew. In a bold move, she even reached out to Andrew's parents. This was particularly unsettling because Shirley had initially introduced herself to them as just a friend, hiding the true nature of their relationship. As her efforts to win back Andrew's attention intensified, Shirley claimed she was pregnant with his child. This news came as a shock to Andrew, but instead of reacting impulsively, he agreed to discuss the matter further at a later time. However, Shirley's actions didn't stop there. Toward the end of the month, she decided to visit him unannounced, hoping to confront him in person. The visit, however, quickly spiraled into chaos. What could have been a calm discussion turned into a heated argument. Tension. Barely a day later, Shirley's behavior became even more erratic. Consumed by anger and rejection, she began obsessively calling Andrew. Despite her relentless attempts, Andrew refused to answer any of her calls. But Shirley wasn't ready to let him go. Fueled by a mix of desperation and vengeance, she made the shocking decision to drive over 16 hours from Iowa to Pennsylvania, determined to confront him. This impulsive journey highlighted how unstable and unpredictable her state of mind had become. Her need for control had turned into an alarming obsession. On the morning of November 5th, 2001, Shirley showed up at Andrew's house uninvited. The two had a tense confrontation before Andrew left for work, visibly upset. At work, Andrew confided in his friend and colleague, Clark Simpson, about Shirley's behavior. He told Clark how Shirley had reacted poorly to the breakup and how she was struggling to accept the end of their relationship. Despite this, Andrew decided he would meet Shirley after work, hoping to bring some closure to the situation. Clark, sensing the potential for danger, strongly advised against meeting her alone. He warned Andrew that Shirley's volatile behavior could escalate into violence. Unfortunately, Andrew reassured Clark that everything would be fine and promised to visit him after meeting Shirley. That visit never happened. When Andrew didn't show up, Clark grew increasingly worried. Later that same day, Shirley returned to Iowa and left a message on Andrew's answering machine, but it went unanswered. The following morning, when Andrew failed to show up for work, Clark's concerns deepened. Fearing the worst, he contacted authorities. Shortly after, devastating news broke. Andrew's lifeless body had been discovered at a state park in Pennsylvania. He had been shot multiple times in what appeared to be a brutal attack. The investigation into Andrew's death began immediately. Authorities interviewed his friends and colleagues, with Clark providing critical insights into the events leading up to the tragedy. He recounted Shirley's obsessive behavior, her unrelenting calls, and the ominous warnings he had given Andrew. Armed with this information, police turned their attention to Shirley, who feigned shock and sadness upon hearing of Andrew's death. While her reaction appeared genuine to some, others, especially those who knew the history of their tumultuous relationship, suspected that there was far more to the story than she let on. As the investigation into Andrew's tragic death deepened, authorities uncovered a significant lead. Shirley Turner's name appeared on a list of firearm owners. This discovery raised immediate red flags, and detectives contacted her, requesting that she bring her weapon in for ballistic testing. Initially, Shirley agreed without hesitation, but when it was time to turn over the gun, she made a series of excuses. She claimed she had misplaced the weapon and could not locate it. Suspicion around her involvement began to grow. At the same time, autopsy and preliminary ballistic reports revealed that Andrew had been shot 5 times with bullets matching the type used in Shirley's gun. Despite this strong connection, the lack of the actual firearm meant the evidence was still considered circumstantial. Undeterred, the authorities pressed Shirley to hand over the gun. Parallel to this, detectives delved into mobile phone records, hoping to establish a timeline and location for Shirley's movements. However, the technology available in 2001 was not as advanced as today, and analyzing the records took time. This delay worked in Shirley's favor. Taking advantage of the lack of concrete evidence or restrictions against her, Shirley fled the United States. On November 12, 2001, she crossed the border into Canada, leaving the investigation momentarily stalled. Without an active arrest warrant or travel restrictions in place, Shirley's departure went unchallenged. Back in Canada, Shirley resumed her life as if nothing had happened, while Andrew's loved ones were left reeling from the loss. The shock and disbelief over Andrew's murder weighed heavily on his friends and family. To them, it was incomprehensible that anyone could harm someone as kind and compassionate as Andrew. Among those grieving was his childhood friend, Kurt, who had grown up making videos with Andrew during their teenage years. In an effort to honor his friend's memory, Kurt decided to create a documentary celebrating Andrew's life. He interviewed dozens of people who had known Andrew, piecing together stories that highlighted his remarkable character and the joy he brought to those around him. Meanwhile, detectives in Pennsylvania continued to build their case against Shirley. A breakthrough came when mobile phone records finally revealed critical information. The data showed that Shirley had traveled from Iowa to Pennsylvania and then back around the exact time of Andrew's murder. This placed her squarely at the scene during the time frame of the crime. With this new evidence, authorities moved quickly. An international arrest warrant was issued for Shirley Turner, marking a pivotal step in the pursuit of justice for Andrew. Canadian law enforcement began monitoring her movements closely, knowing the significance of their role in ensuring accountability. On December 12, 2001, Canadian authorities apprehended Shirley Turner. Her arrest brought a glimmer of hope to Andrew's family, who had been tirelessly advocating for justice. Alongside her arrest, extradition proceedings were initiated to return her to the United States, where she would face trial for Andrew's murder. However, the legal process in Canada introduced unexpected complications. A Canadian judge, tasked with determining Shirley's fate, concluded that she did not pose a threat to society despite the severity of the charges she faced. This controversial decision shocked many as it seemingly overlooked the gravity of the evidence against her. The judge set Shirley's bail at $75,000, imposing a series of conditions designed to monitor her actions. She was required to surrender her passports to prevent international travel, check in with local police weekly, and remain within the designated area. Additionally, she was prohibited from contacting Andrew's family under any circumstances. While these measures were meant to ensure compliance, they also sparked outrage and disbelief among Andrew's loved ones. To them, the decision to grant Shirley bail felt like a miscarriage of justice, leaving them to wonder if the system would truly hold her accountable for her actions. With the assistance of her psychiatrist, Shirley Turner managed to raise the money needed to pay her bail and was released from custody. Shortly after her release, she dropped a bombshell that added an unexpected twist to the case. She was 2 months pregnant and claimed that the baby she was carrying was Andrew's child. This shocking revelation deeply affected Andrew's family and friends. The idea that the woman responsible for Andrew's death was now carrying his child was almost too much to bear. For Andrew's parents, David and Kathleen, this news brought a mix of devastation and hope. They were grappling with the loss of their only child while preparing for the arrival of his son. Kurt, Andrew's childhood friend and the filmmaker behind the documentary project initially intended to honor Andrew's life, decided to shift the direction of his work. He wanted to create something meaningful for the child, a way for the baby to learn about the father he would never meet. When Shirley revealed that the child was a boy and announced she would name him Zachary Andrew Turner, Kurt named the documentary Dear Zachary, a letter to a son about his father. The project became a heartfelt tribute, a means to share stories, memories, and the essence of Andrew's character with his unborn son. For Andrew's parents, Shirley's pregnancy placed them in an incredibly complicated emotional position. On the one hand, Shirley's actions had brought unimaginable pain into their lives. On the other hand, her pregnancy represented a part of Andrew that would live on through his child. Determined to ensure the safety and well-being of their future grandson, David and Kathleen decided to move to Newfoundland, where Shirley was living. They wanted to be as close to Zachary as possible and resolved to fight for custody once he was born. In July 2002, Zachary Andrew Turner was born, bringing both joy and sorrow to his grandparents. David and Kathleen immediately began legal proceedings, convinced that Zachary was not safe in Shirley's care. The custody battle was long and emotionally draining. Despite the circumstances, Andrew's parents made an effort to maintain a civil relationship with Shirley. They feared that antagonizing her might lead her to act out in ways that could harm Zachary or damage their chances of maintaining contact with him. It was a delicate and heartbreaking balance for them to navigate. By November 2002, Shirley was arrested again, this time held in custody while the Canadian Federal Justice Department reviewed her extradition case to the United States. This development gave David and Kathleen a sense of hope. If Shirley were extradited to face trial for Andrew's murder, they believed they would finally gain custody of Zachary. However, Shirley complicated matters by setting specific conditions for the custody arrangement. She demanded weekly supervised visits with Zachary, daily phone calls, and even requested a photo of herself with Andrew to be kept for the child. Her demands were met with frustration and disbelief by Andrew's parents. In January 2003, the case took another controversial turn. A judge ruled that Shirley should be released again, citing the principle of presumed innocence and arguing that no evidence had been presented to suggest she posed a psychological risk to Zachary. This decision outraged Andrew's parents and friends, who had seen firsthand the manipulative and unstable behavior Shirley had exhibited. The ruling left Zachary in a precarious position, caught between his mother's demands and the desperate efforts of his grandparents to provide him with a safe and loving environment. After 6 months of legal battles, Shirley regained custody of Zachary. From that moment on, she made deliberate efforts to keep the child away from his grandparents, David and Kathleen. Shirley frequently created excuses or manipulated the legal system to limit their access to Zachary. However, Andrew's parents were unwavering in their determination. They refused to let her push them out of their grandson's life, constantly fighting for the opportunity to be with him. Shirley's actions created a tense and heartbreaking situation with Zachary caught in the middle. On July 4th, 2003, Shirley went out to a bar where she met a young man. They had a brief relationship, engaging in intimacy on 2 occasions. However, when the man discovered Shirley's connection to Andrew's death, he immediately ended the relationship. Predictably, Shirley became obsessed with him. Over the next month, she made over 200 threatening phone calls, attempting to intimidate and manipulate him. Shirley left behind chilling items in her car, including photos of herself and Zachary, and a used tampon, seemingly trying to leave traces to implicate someone else. From there, she drove to a secluded area near the Atlantic Ocean. In a devastating act of cruelty, she mixed antidepressants into Zachary's baby formula and fed it to him, rendering him unconscious. Afterwards, she ingested a toxic dose of medication herself. Using her sweater, she tied Zachary to her chest and jumped from a fishing dock into the ocean, ending both of their lives in an act of murder-suicide. The police investigation concluded that Shirley's actions were motivated by revenge and a twisted attempt to incriminate the young man she had briefly dated. Forensic analysis determined that Zachary did not suffer, as the medication rendered him unconscious before he drowned. This discovery, however, did little to comfort anyone who loved and fought for the baby. Shirley's actions were calculated and heartless, leaving a legacy of pain for everyone involved. In the aftermath, David and Kathleen, Zachary's grandparents, held a press conference, firmly blaming Shirley for the deaths of both their son and grandson. They expressed their deep frustration and outrage at the justice system, which they believed had failed to act decisively after Andrew's murder. They criticized the courts for being too lenient in allowing Shirley to remain free and retain custody of Zachary, ultimately giving her the opportunity to take his life. During the investigations into Shirley's background, startling revelations emerged. A supervising doctor who had worked with her during her residency described Shirley as a manipulative sociopath. This assessment led to reforms in how residency evaluations were conducted at the hospital, ensuring stricter scrutiny of candidates' psychological well-being. Shirley's psychiatrist, who had controversially assisted her in posting bail, faced professional consequences. In May 2006, the Newfoundland and Labrador College of Physicians and Surgeons disciplined him for professional misconduct, ordering him to pay a fine of $10,000 to cover part of the investigation costs. The psychiatrist expressed disappointment with the ruling, defending his actions as an attempt to help a patient in need. However, David Turner voiced satisfaction with the outcome, seeing it as an important precedent that reinforced accountability in such cases. For him and Kathleen, the ruling was a small step toward justice after enduring unimaginable losses. Later that year, in October 2006, a forensic judge released the findings of an inquiry into Zachary's death. The judge concluded that the tragedy was entirely preventable, highlighting significant failures in the region's child welfare system. He criticized social service officials for their poor communication and for prioritizing Shirley's well-being over Zachary's safety. Operating under the assumption of her innocence, the system ignored clear warning signs, resulting in an outcome that could have been avoided. In October 2009, a member of the Canadian Parliament introduced a new piece of legislation called the Zachary Law. This bill was designed to amend the country's criminal code to allow courts to deny bail to individuals accused of serious crimes, especially when the safety of children is at risk. The bill was met with widespread support in the House of Commons, with lawmakers from all sides agreeing that changes were necessary. A senator also lent their support, and on December 16, 2010, the bill was passed into law by the Governor General. This law aimed to prevent cases like Shirley's from happening again, ensuring that those accused of harming children could not be released easily while awaiting trial. Along with the law, 2 scholarships were established in memory of Andrew and his son Zachary as a way to honor their lives and the impact their deaths had on their loved ones. These scholarships were created to help future generations and provide an ongoing legacy in their names. With the passage of this law, Many hoped that the justice system would be more effective in protecting vulnerable children, preventing future tragedies, and holding individuals accountable for their actions. Now, after understanding the case, what are your thoughts on how Shirley's situation was handled by the justice system? Do you think the decisions made were fair, or was there a failure in the system? The story we've explored today highlights the deep complexities of human relationships and the devastating consequences that can result when trust is betrayed. It serves as a reminder of how dangerous obsession and manipulation can be, and how vulnerable we can all be in situations that seem ordinary at first. What unfolded here was a tragedy that changed lives forever and left behind questions about the justice system's responsibility in protecting those most vulnerable. Thank you for joining us today. If you found this story impactful, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Your support helps us bring you more stories like this. Stay curious, stay aware, and we'll see you next time.